When we use the composition API, we also get access to a couple of special hooks or functions called watch and watchEffect. Now these two functions are a way for us to run some code when a particular value changes. For example, we have this search term stored in a ref. We could set up a watch or a watchEffect hook to run some code whenever the value of that search ref changed. So let's try this out. I'm going to go below the names and use the watch hook first of all. So I'll say watch, and then if you hit this, it's going to auto import it. Again, we're importing the feature that we need. And inside here, we say first of all, as the first argument, what we want to watch. I want to watch the search ref. And then as a second argument, a function which will fire every time that search ref value changes. So every time we type something different into this input field, every letter, this search ref changes, and then because it changes and we're watching it, we can fire some code to do something. For now, all I'm going to do is console.log, and I'll say inside watch function run. So I'm going to save this and come over here, and every time we enter in a new letter, we can see watch function run, and it does that for every key that we press. So that's watch. What about watchEffect? Well, let's try using it. This time I'm going to say watchEffect and hit this, and it auto imports it for me. And this time we just pass in a function. We don't pass in anything to watch as the first argument like we did with watch. So I'm going to say in here console.log, and then inside that I'll say watchEffect function ran. Now, if I was to save this and preview, we can see watchEffect function ran once initially. So that's the first thing. This runs initially when the component first loads, or when the setup function first runs. Now, watch doesn't do that, but this does. So it always runs initially. Now, the next thing is, if we're typing something in here, this doesn't run again because it doesn't know what we're watching at the minute. Now then, if I was to pass in right here search.value and save this, then let's take a look, and we can see watchEffect function ran and then the value, which is D. So this is running every time search changes, because if I do it again, it's going to run again, etc. So it's doing pretty much the same thing as watch now. Now, how is it doing that? How does it know to run when search value changes? Well, it's because we're using search value inside the watchEffect function. So it watches any dependencies of the function, any value that we use inside it, like search.value, it will watch that, and when that changes, it will automatically run this function. So it's a bit like watch, but we don't have to explicitly say what we're watching. It will just automatically watch any value inside it and then run it when that changes. So then, if you don't want to use that value inside the function, you could use watch, or if you don't want it to run for the first time around automatically, you could use watch. Otherwise, if you do want it to run once to begin with, you could use watchEffect. And also, if you're using the value inside the function, you could use watchEffect as well. Now, personally, I find myself more often than not using watchEffect much more than watch. This is partly because I don't need to list my watch list, but also because sometimes I want the function to run right away, perhaps to get some data for the components. So a lot of the time, that's why we use watchEffect, to get data from a database. And perhaps that request relies on a resource ID. So whenever the ID changes, we want to rerun the function to get that new resource from the database. We'll see examples of exactly how to use it to do that kind of thing in future lessons. But one more thing before we finish up with these two, how to stop them watching. Well, all we need to do is store the return value in some kind of variable. So I'll say const, and then stop watch is equal to watch, and then down here, const, and we'll say stop effect is equal to watchEffect. So these things right here, they return a function, and now we're storing that function in this and this. And to stop them watching, all we have to do is invoke those functions. So let me create a button up here, and inside that button we'll say stop watching, and we'll attach a click event to this, so at click, and set it equal to handle click. Now we need to create that function down here, so const handle click is equal to a function, and then we'll return it at the bottom so we can use it in the template. Handle click. So if I want to stop these watching, all I need to do is say stop watch and then invoke that, because this is a function, because this returns a function and this does as well. And then the same thing for stop effect, and that will stop them watching. So if I save this, I'm going to come over here and refresh and type a load of stuff. You can see it all logging this stuff to the console. But if I type stop watching, then it no longer does that. It's no longer outputting anything to the console. Okay, so that is watch and watch effect. Next up, I'm going to show you how to work with props in the composition API.